Hey, everybody. Welcome to another installment of 3 Days to Close, the podcast where leading realtors share their stories and strategies for success. I'm your host, Tim Schultz. I'm the co-owner and lead photographer of Bright House Photo. And my co-host today, as always, is my firstborn, Max Schultz. How you doing, Max?
Notice you didn't say favorite this time. Should I be concerned?
Are the other kids in the room? You're my favorite, okay?
There we go.
Well, I'm really excited today that we have one of our favorite realtors in Doylestown. Heather Walton is the co-owner of Class-Harlan Real Estate in Doylestown, and we're really pleased that she's with us today. So how you doing, Heather?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Well, you're welcome. I think when we were talking about this podcast, when Max and I are talking with Charlie, and I thought of you as the perfect person for this podcast because everyone's got a unique story, Heather, and real estate usually isn't a straight shot from college or high school to real estate. Usually you get to real estate by various pathways. So let's start up with, tell us a little bit about your path, how you got here, and then we'll go from that.
I appreciate that opportunity. You know, I often say that life is full of character building experiences, and I've had a lot of them, and good ones and not so good ones, but ones that created who I am today in my profession, in my personal life, and in my community. So it starts out with basically a bunch of marketing jobs that allowed me to work for some pretty fabulous companies in primarily Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and tourism marketing, public relations, promotional type of work, advertising, for-profit and not-for-profit in terms of my professional work.
Yep.
Raised two boys, got involved in a community, volunteer for all kinds of things, met lots of terrific people, and my life sort of guided me into a service-based profession of real estate.
Yeah, I think, and you mentioned community, I think that's a very important part of your job, how you work. So can you tell us a little bit more about the community and, well, I guess the Doylestown community in general?
Yeah, as a partner and owner of Class-Harlan Real Estate for about 9 years now, I've been licensed as a salesperson at Class-Harlan since the launch of my career back in 2001. So that's about 22 years. I've been living in the Central Bucks County community since about 1988.
Okay.
Newtown a few years, and then Doylestown for the majority of the last several years. My husband and I believe in giving back to our community, so we have been involved in a variety of different ways, sports ways, social opportunities, and a lot of business-related opportunities. I'm a member of the Historic and Architectural Review Board. I'm a member of the Bucks County Historical Society.
Excellent.
I helped to launch the Doylestown Revitalization Board to revitalize the community and get businesses involved. Doylestown Athletic Association, my husband has been extremely involved in. Raising two boys who were athletic and involved allowed us to be involved with lots of sports teams. So Team Mom was a hat that I wore for many years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And allowed me to meet a lot of families and young people, and a lot of them I have sold their homes, sold them homes. Now I'm selling their kids' homes because our kids are now in their 30s. So that all helped.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
bet. I mean, real estate, I think more than any other kind of like sales relevant profession is the one that's most kind of reliant on the relationships with the community. I think you have to build those roots because we talk about this a lot, but the amount of trust that has to go into this process and the lack of familiarity, like people have not done this a ton.
Yeah. Trust is huge.
Yeah.
because you are helping people make a very big decision, not only a financial decision, but a huge personal decision. It's home.
Right.
Yeah.
Home is our everything. And, going through COVID, we really learned that, didn't we? That
Yeah.
our homes became much more to us than just a place to rest and to eat and to raise families. But, we were educating our kids in our homes, and we're working out of our homes, and our backyards. We weren't vacationing for a period of time. So our backyards became our paradise and a very important place. So, trust, building that trust and being involved in your community and supporting your community is one way of helping to build that trust with people.
Yeah. You just mentioned COVID, and 2020 to 2021 was challenging for everybody, but in particular, the brokerage, Class-Harlan. How did you get through those pitfalls? How was that for you?
Yeah. Well, again, wearing two different hats. So as my real estate professional hat, that was really tough because real estate wasn't considered to be a necessity, believe it or not.
It's essential service, right?
Essential. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the word, essential.
It
wasn't considered essential. So that was frustrating because I was dealing with people who were in situations of, I hate to say it, but it's true, death in the family, job loss, sickness. Nothing was more essential to them than a change of some sort in their real estate. And I really couldn't help them effectively. And personally, that was extremely frustrating. As an owner of a brokerage, keeping the spirits up of my sales team, because it was tough. And, we weren't doing much business, and there wasn't much business to be done. Or if there was, it struggled in many ways to help people. So we, no question about it, had to think outside the box and become creative in our marketing efforts, in our recruiting efforts, in our lead generation efforts. We really had to think outside the box. And there's a variety of different ways and things that we did that helped to generate those leads and raise the spirits and really turn our business around.
Well, I got to say, you have a good, very cooperative, very loyal bunch of realtors at the office. So I think for the most part, everyone hung in, to get through that together. But then on the outside of the COVID mess was a boom like no other, and I think we all benefited from that 2021 to 2022 boom. So just tell me, we're in a market now where the interest rates are high. It's changed. It's changed since last year. How do you see it going forward, Heather?
That's a really great question. And before I got involved in this call, I was looking at some statistics on the Bright MLS system, focusing primarily in the Central Bucks School District area. And I heard you use the word booming, and it has been booming for sellers.
Right.
Incredible sellers market we've experienced over the last couple of years, and it has been booming for them and very exciting for them. And as a listing agent, it's been a very fast-paced, fast-moving, high energy role that we have been on, truly. The challenge, or one of the many challenges in this market before we even talk about interest rates, is the inventory. I use my hands to describe this, but the inventory has been low, right? And the buyer prospects, buyers out there looking, has been high. And I'm going to go above my screen here. Really high. And that's the frustration. Great for sellers, extremely frustrating for buyers. So, as inventory comes on, the buyers get out there. A year and a half ago, I would have 60 showings in one weekend. I would send my sellers away for the weekend, take your pets, get your house ready, go away, let me handle the revolving door situation, come back Monday night and I'll present offers. And I did. I had one that was, 25 offers, and these poor people were in their 80s and their heads were spinning, and to guide them and walk them through that process, was nuts. On the flip side, I've got one buyer, my biggest one, was we wrote 25 offers over a 2-year period for that one buyer, first time home buyers.
We just went through this. This is
You did too.
Yeah, I bought my house. It was May 9th we closed. But so we did this spring.
Congratulations.
Thanks. We made it to the other side. It was nice. But there were like, we kept running into this situation where like, okay, a house went up in one of like the 4 towns we'd kind of like isolated in the, the school districts, right? You kind of thread the needle, and then you get 14 offers that we found out that they had about. I think we wrote offers on 9 houses.
Wow.
So like we saw and did a bunch. We definitely, I think we looked at least 40 houses. It was a process, and you feel
so you hung in there.
We did, and I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tim DiBernardino out of the Brent Selleck Group is great.
That's great. Congratulations. Good for you.
But it was just harrowing, though. It was like this thing where it's like, hurry up and buy, make the best offer, stretch where you can, like compromise here. And like, I don't think if we didn't have somebody who could guide us through that, like I'm picturing, like you just mentioned in COVID, like that sounds really terrible.
Yeah.
Well, the role of the buyer's agent is very important to guide their buyers and try to keep positivity and show them the points and the tips for writing a strong offer. That being said, sometimes it's tough to compete with cash. Sometimes it's tough to compete with people willing to waive inspections.
Yeah.
All of that. Now let's segue into these interest rates that have really fluctuated over the last year, but in the last 2 months or so, remember my diagram or my arms here of this? Well, those interest rates are making it a little closer. Some of the buyers are saying, you know what, I'm not doing this right now.
Okay.
I'm not paying these rates. I'm not going to do this. So yeah, now what was 60 showings per listing, maybe now only be 12 to 8 showings in a weekend. Still phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
We used to sometimes have that over 15 to 30 days. So it's still great. We're still low inventory, surplus of buyers. How long do I think it's going to take? I'm guessing that's your next question to me.
Yeah,
so,
please.
And I wish I had that crystal ball.
Yeah.
I read a lot. I talk to a lot of people. None of us have that crystal ball, but I still think, and I'm talking about Central Bucks, right? Our area here. I still think, but for it to even out and maybe even start to go this way, I predict it's at least another year, maybe 2 years.
Okay.
Because of that surplus of buyers.
So Heather, I've known you maybe 5 years, and I know that you're very meticulous, right? You're detail oriented. So I haven't bought a house in 20 some years. Max just bought a house. I'm a new buyer. I'm coming to you. What do you want to say to them to get prepped to buy a home?
Well, number one is always get pre-approved. So talk to a lender, maybe a couple of lenders, find out the different loan packages that are available to you, but get that pre-approval letter so that you're qualified, what price range you're qualified in. And then if you've got a partner involved with you in this home purchase, communicate with each other.
Yeah.
Make sure you're on the same page of what you're looking for in terms of single family home versus townhome, location, number of bedrooms, baths, age, big yard, small yard, older home, newer home, school district, all of that. Get as close to on the same page as possible.
Right.
And then interview buyer agents, interview realtors.
Yes.
To find a buyer agent that is a good listener, number one, but is experienced or eager, or works with a team of people who are experienced, who can guide you through the process of helping you, put together terms and conditions of an agreement of sale that in this market makes you sort of happy, right, Max?
Yeah.
Sort of happy.
Right.
We have to sometimes give and take a little
That's
bit.
what we say. Most of the time we like the house.
Yeah.
Like most of the time. We find out, needed a new roof or something. That was not my favorite.
There's got to be some win-win for both sides.
Yeah.
So in a seller's market, it has been very driven to seller. And many buyers have written offers really only to appeal to the seller. And there sometimes at the settlement table, there's a little bit like, did I overpay? What am I doing? Is this really the location I wanted? I think there's been a little bit of buyer's remorse. So interview that agent to find someone who's going to guide you through all of the steps of looking at homes, narrowing them down, putting together an offer that is going to hopefully win, and then we'll guide you all the next steps that take you to the settlement table.
Heather, has it been in the last year? Do you tell people you're going to have to pay more than the listing price? I mean, do you have to say that, or how do you approach that?
That's hard to hear.
It is.
Especially when you run comps in the neighborhood and they're not that high. And
Yeah.
that's hard for buyers to hear. So I don't think I use those exact words. I paint a picture of what I've experienced in the marketplace,
Yep.
Over the last 2 years, and maybe most specifically in the last 6 months. And I talk to them about some of the creative ways that they can position an offer that might win for them. One
Okay.
of which is price,
Yep.
settlement date, mortgage
Yep.
contingency, electing and waiving, inspections, electing or waiving, appraisal contingency, electing or waiving, and then is it option 1 or is it option 2?
Right.
Maybe offering to pay seller's transfer tax. Maybe, we're not supposed to write those love letters anymore to the sellers. Some people are still doing that, but really, we have to be careful with fair housing, and we're not supposed to be doing that.
Yep.
So, don't make it too personal, but make it be appealing in terms of other terms in the offer. I think that's sort of how I explain it to them.
Okay.
Just want to say I'm very proud. We had to write letters, and my wife wrote a very nice letter about how much she loves the house and grew up in the area and stuff. And the title of my letter was "I Hate New Jersey." And I guess we moved from Pennsylvania to New Jersey, so as a Pennsylvanian native, I have to hate New Jersey. It's just part of the rules.
You were stuck. You were stuck, but
no, it was actually just basically, it's like, I listed all the things I don't like about Jersey and things like that. It was tongue in cheek, but it was basically like, I didn't like all these things, but I really love my wife, and she wants to live there. So this is the first house that I'm willing to compromise on. Can we do it?
And you've got a beautiful house. You've got a beautiful, yeah. So
it's just, it was, I was trying to basically cut through. It's like, they probably see so many love letters. How do I make them laugh? And if they're going to read one, maybe. I don't think it worked, but I think it's my wife's, but.
Okay.
So we as real estate professionals are really being advised by the Pennsylvania Real Estate Commission and the attorneys that lead the commission to not do those love letters because of fair housing. We don't want a seller to, be swayed to one buyer, based on a myriad of different things. Right. So really, you want to look at buyer qualifications. Are they qualified to buy their home? And are the overall terms and conditions in that contract appealing and work for those sellers?
Yeah. Heather, if I could at this point, I want to shift our diagram to the sell side, right? I met you, let's say 5 years ago. Todd referred me to you, but he referred me with a warning. He said, now you got to be super careful because she's very detailed and highly motivated. I didn't know what to make of that. So the first house we did, if you recall, the owner was a photographer. And as you know, my style is like, I move fast and I buzz around. And he was like behind me a couple of steps. And so I was very nervous about, number one, the pictures, impressing you. But I think it worked out. I think it worked out in the end. But I was early. And
that's what I was about to say, Tim. What I remembered is you arrived like 20 minutes early and
way too early.
She was very flustered, and that started you off on the wrong foot right there with them.
But I've made amends. And
you sure did. The pictures, the photography did, and that's what the goal was, right?
Yes.
That's why you're hired. We bring in the expert to visually portray the highlights of a property. Yeah. And you won them over big time, and they got over asking. And I think there were multiple offers in that one, and they were very impressed and very pleased.
Yeah.
That was the launch of our relationship.
That's right. That's right. And, it's been great because I like when you view me as kind of a collaborator. You have your vision, your marketing vision. You want to go close in on details, and you say, I know you hate doing this, but can you do this? And we work well like that because you kind of stretch me, and I have to change my usual. So it's great. But as a selling agent, a seller's agent, what are the steps you're taking right now in this very low inventory market? How do you approach your sellers?
Well, if anyone walks away from this podcast with key messages, and hopefully we're sharing a lot of key messages, but what I want people to really walk away from, and I just said it to a seller last night on a listing appointment, less is more.
Wow.
Less is more. So in your home, as you prepare your home to market for sale, and you live in your home differently when you're marketing it for sale.
Right.
Your home is a commodity, it's a product, and people are going to be walking through and trying to visualize themselves living in those spaces.
Right.
So if we can depersonalize a home by utilizing the term less is more,
Yep.
it'll make it much easier for people to visualize. So even in that seller's market, we want our sellers to show pride of ownership, and that it's been well maintained and well cared for. And a buyer's going to have confidence bidding on this home if they have to go over asking.
Yeah.
Right. And again, that term sometimes rubs some buyers the wrong way. Sellers are hoping for that. And hopefully we price it accordingly, right? You price it right based on those sold comparables so that it drives the market in, and then the market drives up that price, which is what we've been experiencing.
Yes. Yep.
But the prep is in the sellers preparing the home for people like Tim to come in and photograph all of those highlights. So if there's pictures, if there's too much going on, it becomes a distraction in those photos.
But a lot of times emotionally, sellers don't want to do that, right? They have the attachment saying, well, this is my house,
I've raised my kids here. I've lived here. I've loved here, like all of these things.
Yeah. So that's where it's hard. The listing agent has to have I'm going to use the term a little bit of an edge. I've been told my edge is a little too hard sometimes, so I have to tone it down, honestly.
Hard but fair. I always say that about you.
I tried. I am fair, but I am also a straight shooter. So I say to them, look, your home, we need to depersonalize. I'll use that word. Declutter. I made someone cry once using that word, so I don't use that word anymore. I use the word depersonalize.
Declutter. You can't say that?
Max, you think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding.
I think that's a very sensitive person in that case.
That was a rough day for Heather when that happened, because nobody wants to do that to someone. You're there to help them and to guide them through the process. And so that made me do sort of an about face and relook at how I guide people through this process. So remember I talked about character building experiences. That was one of my many, but so less is more, removing things from walls, removing things from tabletops, less furniture in a room, brighter lights, working light bulbs, believe it or not, less on the countertops, making those beds.
Get rid of the dog beds, get rid of the.
So,
So with your marketing background, is that like where this comes from? I mean, generally? Because I know a lot of realtors have to do that, but how do you think that's affected kind of your approach to maximizing cost per square foot?
Okay, you're asking me a couple questions, and I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent because I was mentored by Joanne Maroney, and I say that with a boastful energy and enthusiasm, and yes, so much pride. So a lot of what I learned, or the basics of my career and launching my career in real estate, came from Joanne Maroney and watching her and working side by side, joined at the hip for the first good 7 to 8 years of my career. Joined at the hip, did everything with her.
She was your mentor.
He was. And, I didn't fool around. I picked the right one right from the beginning. So we are peas from a similar pod. We are both community minded, service minded. So a lot of what I learned, Max, came from her, and how to help people prepare their homes for sale. Yes, now I've sort of taken it to a next level, and in this market where we have gone through some competitive phases, not so much now in a seller's market, but in guiding people through that process and helping them visualize their home, open up the blinds, remove extra area rugs, remove those dog beds, remove extra furniture, extra things on the table, distractions, incredible artwork. I've asked people to remove incredible artwork before, because then it turns into a museum tour. And people have a hard time visualizing themselves living there because they're so taken back by the incredible artwork. So
Yeah.
sometimes we even have to do that.
And that can be very hard because,
Yes.
you know, some of the houses that I photographed for you just were drop dead with beautiful art, but you have to, you have to declutter as best you can.
Yeah. Show those spaces, open up those windows and blinds, wash those windows,
Right.
Show off the outside if we've got a beautiful outside.
Yeah.
Will you ever go further with it where it's like, I don't know, I think we had a bunch of wallpaper in here, but apparently the realtor had told these guys just paint it and it's fine and that'll work for selling the houses. And it is fine. We're working on it. It's a challenge. But I mean, are you doing like home improvement recommendations?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I joke about, you know, if I'm going to go upstairs and find a room that's got purple and orange striped walls, I'm probably going to recommend to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that we paint it in more neutral paint color.
Yeah. I'm not kidding. We saw one that was purple and green plaid on the walls. Yeah. And it was a beautiful house. And this room was purple and green plaid.
Right.
So that's what you remembered. So sometimes, and this is sort of the opposite of what I'm saying, if you make a home too vanilla, then you forget about it.
Okay.
And in a busier market where we're looking at 8 or 10 homes, right, which is not this market now, but you know, 8 years ago or so, when we would go out on a Saturday from 1 to 5 and show 8 homes, if you were too vanilla, then you were forgotten about when we get together for dinner with those clients and you decide, okay, which home appealed? This is someone that needs to buy a home in a weekend because they're a relo or something. So you don't want to be forgotten about either.
Yeah.
Heather, do you remember the elephant in the room?
Oh, yes.
Right? Now, so it was a big stuffed elephant that Heather decided to leave in the bedroom. And she said, take the picture of it, because I thought maybe we should get it out of there. But she said they're going to remember the elephant in the room.
I like that.
Right?
It was actually, Tim, a cardboard elephant.
Oh, was it? Okay.
It was giant, but it was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, you know, if they're 8-foot ceilings, it was a 7-foot elephant. But they had a birthday party that was circus themed.
Okay.
So that's where that elephant came from. And I thought that would be something that was fun. You wouldn't expect to see, you know, make someone smile. And again, maybe help that property be memorable. I can't, that's so funny. You remember that.
Yeah. Definitely did stuff like that where it was like, I don't know, we had one that was like the goldfish house because they had this enormous goldfish. And, you know, as we're talking about these things like in the week or so following, like, what are we going to put an offer in or not? It's like, oh, that's a goldfish house. Right. Is that the one on Hawthorne? I don't know. But like it was these little kind of like hallmarks that.
So that's fun. You just don't want to be the stinky house or the house that had that odor that was an unpleasant, or the really dark house, or the, you know, humid house, or the moldy house, or the house that needed the new roof, or the house that had the dripping water in the basement dripping in, or, you know, something like that. So again, we talked about pride of ownership, and, you know, those types of things that you can do to fix some of those things make a difference.
Which seem to be fairly simple or fairly plain to see, but oftentimes you got to point it out to the seller, you know, that this needs to be taken care of. And I just want to mention that, you know, this podcast is called 3 Days to Close. I think what's important, Heather, is that it could be called, or your job is more like 3 months to close. All right. It's not a one and done thing with the seller. You are working the seller for literally months.
Or years. Yes.
Or years. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I
think
helping
them prepare. Yes.
Yeah. That's an important aspect, that it's not you come in, you get the listing and you go to work. It's a process.
There's handholding, and there are certain sellers out there that are really counting on you to guide them through the process of preparing and giving lists of contractors who can help make some of those necessary repairs that may be needed at the house, or the clean out that's needed, or the removal of the orange shag carpeting that's over hardwood floors. And you make the recommendation, listen, let's lift up this carpeting. I know you've enjoyed it for the past 45 years. But you've got beautiful gleaming hardwoods underneath, and that's what's appealing to today's market. So let's showcase that, and then I can potentially get you more money for your home.
Yeah.
So that's what our goal is. Our goal is to help our sellers sell their home in a reasonable time frame to qualified buyers, and get them the best overall terms and conditions that work for them
Yep.
Price being often one of the things that's important to them.
Of
Yeah.
course. Of
You're,
course.
you're basically the project manager, like as they're going through this.
It
Right.
can be that sometimes. Yep.
You
Yep.
wear a lot of hats. A lot of hats.
We do. We
Yeah.
do.
Heather, I'm going to ask this, and it's right here. You see it though. The question is, what is your superpower as an agent? And we thought about this question because everyone has a certain thought about themselves working with people. You know, what do you bring to the table that no one else does?
And no one else does.
No one.
Well, have an incredible knowledge of the community, but there are a lot of people that have that.
That's okay.
I consider myself a good listener, and I would like to think that a lot of realtors are good listeners.
Yeah.
I like to read between the words that are not being said.
Yeah. Right.
To kind of determine what they may think their needs are, and I may be able to, based on experience, help guide them to, well, actually, this might make more sense for you. And
Mhm.
hopefully a lot of top producing realtors, are doing that also. I guess, I am authentic.
Authentic. I like that.
You're
I
getting
like that.
me, you were looking for a listing agent, you're looking for a buyer agent, you're getting Heather,
Yeah.
and all that wraps up and makes me. And so I have learned to, and it took years and it took maturing to accept who I am and to just be myself.
Yeah.
So I build friendships in some cases where we have fun, and I guess that's the goal of my day every day.
Yeah. Well, that's good advice for any profession, for any personal
Be
relationship.
authentic, be
Yes.
comfortable in your own skin. People will like you, people will believe you. And Max, like we talked about earlier, people will trust you
Yeah.
Right.
because you were yourself and you
Okay.
shared your knowledge without fear. If you didn't know something, you said, I don't know the answer to that, or that's the first time someone asked me that. I'm gonna figure that out. I'm gonna
Yeah.
get that answer for you. And then I do what I said I was gonna do when I say I'm gonna do it. So
There you go.
I follow up.
Yeah. Terrific. Heather, we got just a couple minutes left, but I wanted to see if you wanted to pitch any listings. Do you have anything, that's coming up that you want to talk about, or you want to talk about the office, how to get to the office, where is the office, whatever you want to do. This is your.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm very, very proud to be affiliated with the sales team at Class-Harlan Real Estate. We have been a brokerage in business since 1963, which is
Yeah.
pretty darn amazing. And we've been at the same location in the county seat of Bucks County, just off the corners of State and Maine. We've got a sales team of professional, kind, good, energetic, caring humans that have similar goals to me, and we handpick each one.
Mhm.
Because we all cheerlead for each other, we all educate each other, we all motivate each other, we all help each other personally and professionally. And I'm very proud of that, and love dearly who I work with in our sales team, and am proud to educate them and help them grow and launch or improve upon or grow their business, whatever their individual personal goals might be.
Okay. And so I would say, if you want to talk to you, just come to the office. You're in the office most days.
I'm in and out every day. I'm
Okay.
extremely reachable. I do work quite a bit. You can find me working pretty much 7 days a week.
Okay.
But yeah, if you have questions about Class-Harlan, our website is classharlan.com. It's a very unique brokerage website, so check it out if you've never been there. We've got a concierge page. We've got photo galleries. You can search for properties. You can see our featured properties. You can meet our sales team and learn about each of them and see all of their listing activity. Check it out, classharlan.com.
And if you're in Doylestown, I would recommend it. Just pop on in and say hello.
Please do.
I think there's a pumpkin contest going on right now.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, just
Yeah.
given how involved you are in the community, what are we missing in Doylestown right now? What should we be looking out for? In the
Well,
month to
we've
come?
got the kids' costume parade coming up and trick or treating in town on Saturday, October 28th.
Yep.
That begins at 9:30 in town. So if you want to stop in, and we've got a giant pumpkin on the table, and you can guess the weight of our giant pumpkin and win a really giant prize. Let you
Okay.
figure out what that is. Also
Good news,
on
you can
that
take the
day,
pumpkin home.
Yeah, if you win, and actually we'll deliver it for you. On that day, on the 28th, we've got the witches ride through town.
That's right.
It's pretty fun, and everyone looks forward to that. The cackling witches on bikes.
Yes.
Will be costumed up, and all primarily adults, and I must say all women, cackling and riding their bikes through town. And that group, which started out several years ago, is probably 5 or 7 witches, has truly grown to, they may have 100 or 150 this year.
That's
Oh
so
my
fun.
goodness.
That's
That's
so
It's
much
a sight
fun.
to see. It is a
Right?
sight to see. It's so fun. It makes you smile.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, of course, as we come into the holidays, I gotta say,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, shopping local, doing your shopping local, the
Absolutely.
holiday events in town, all different types of holiday events will be coming up, coming into November and December. Class-Harlan will be caroling in town and reading
Yeah.
stories to the kids, and Santa will be around for photos and telling them what you want and all that good stuff. So
Terrific. Terrific.